Hey, it's Hallie, and today I'm going to share with you guys the story of my third free birth and my fourth child. So for the last 4 births, we've had home births. The first one we had a midwife, and the last 3 are 3 daughters. We have had free births, and I've posted about the free birth of my last daughter about 1.5 years ago, previously on my channel. And this time I'm going to be talking about the free birth of my most recent daughter, which was about 2 weeks ago. So the story is kind of the same as the last one in details, but I tend to have what is called prodromal labor. A lot of people within the medical system will refer to it as false labor. I definitely don't think it is false. It feels very real, and it tends to start about a month before the actual birth occurs, which it'll happen every couple days, and I'll just get like a couple hours of really intense contractions that are regular and get closer together and are textbook like contractions that the baby is coming. And I do like to use the word surges, but just for this talk I'll say contractions because it's a more mainstream term for people that understand birth. But as far as, and I really don't think the word matters, to be honest, but when I'm in labor, I say surges because I feel like it's less of a mental pain response word. But so about a month before, I start getting some contractions, and I start to kind of hole up like a week before the baby comes. This baby, we didn't really keep track of the due date because I didn't want to become anxious about when she should be here or not be here. So I really didn't keep track until probably the last week or so, and then it started to really drag on. She was a week past her due date for all intents and purposes, but it definitely was a more patient time for me to wait than my last pregnancy. I really felt pretty at peace with it going over, and I had turned my phone off, which was my normal routine, and didn't really go anywhere that I didn't need to go. So we would just kind of lay low and enjoy the day, living really slowly, still doing homeschool and things at the house, and the kids still would go to their activities if they had any, but I didn't make any extra trips anywhere, or we didn't go run to the store more than we needed to. So I would say the day of was really kind of a funny thing. Most of the time when I'm in labor, I am not very hungry and I'm more nauseous than anything. I was nauseous this time, but I was so convinced it was not labor. So throughout the day I was pretty tired and laying down and really sore. And I actually woke up the day that she arrived. And when I woke up at probably like 6 or 7 in the morning, I woke up and said, "Today's the day." And my husband laughed, and I had not said that prior, but I wasn't having any contractions at the moment, so it didn't really seem in context. And then throughout the day, I started having more contractions, which had kind of been usual, about 10 minutes apart, nothing intense or anything. I would walk through it, and I was walking around the house. I was taping packages up. I was doing all sorts of things, making lunch for the kids. And then I even prepped dinner right before, and I'd say probably about 3 or 4 o'clock, things started to get a little bit more intense to where I wanted to go take a bath, and I was kind of restless. I was in the bath, out of the bath. They were still probably 10 minutes apart, and they really weren't that intense. They never were intense the whole time. So that's part of what I consider the most misleading part. And so I was kind of just around. At first I kind of holed off in the bedroom and the bathroom here, and then it started to be me just hold off in the bathroom, and then I was holed up in the bathtub at the end. So yeah, about 4, a little after 4, it got kind of real, probably 4:30, and I needed a little bit more help from my husband. I was asking for some coconut water, started to feel more nauseous, and then the contractions started to get a little bit more intense, but I wouldn't say they were more regular than 7 to 10 minutes at that time. And I do a lot of my laboring on the toilet and in the bathtub. I feel like the water really helps with the pain relief. And then I couldn't get comfortable in the bathtub this time. So I was like laying back and I just couldn't get comfortable. I didn't feel like the baby was coming down. She was very active throughout the whole birth, but I just didn't see her moving down the way that I have previously. So I kind of was more uncomfortable and would get out and do hands and knees on the ground, or I would get on the toilet, and I saw more progress happening at those places. And I never had any like bloody show or any blood or anything whatsoever. And then my waters probably broke around 7 o'clock on the toilet, very normally, which surprised me because that's when I knew I was probably in labor. And then still kind of in denial. I got in the bath and I was having pretty intense contractions. I'd say fairly back to back in there, but not nearly. I wouldn't call them painful. And I had a really intense system where I would visualize I always thank God and give gratitude towards the experience, towards the baby. We're moving down, we're moving together. Those are kind of the mantras I use. But I had a visual that was a gold thread coming from here all the way down. This wasn't something I planned. It just kind of came to me in the labor. And in a way, I felt like that was God coming through, bringing the baby down and helping the birth be facilitated and help the baby out. And that was really helpful. And I felt that that was a very loving thing. It didn't associate with any pain whatsoever, which I really liked. And that helped the birth. But once I got in, I was pushing for probably, 10 minutes or so. My husband said this was the most lucid birth for me, so I wasn't super out of it, and he didn't really know what was going on. At some point, he made a pasta dinner for all of the kids, and even me. I even ate spaghetti and broccoli and everything in the middle of the labor, probably like 45 minutes before she was born, maybe an hour, but it was just very out of character. But eventually when the pushing did start, I felt really stuck and she wasn't coming down the birth canal or anything. So my husband offered the idea to get on my hands and knees in the tub. And when I moved over to my hands and knees, barely a push, she already came out with her head. And so we had to lean back, and then her body was born a little bit later, probably about a minute or two. She did kind of hang out there for a second. And initially I didn't think that she was very big. And then we come to find out that she was 9.5 pounds, which is our largest baby. And she had quite a bit of hair. There was no cord around her neck. There really wasn't any blood or anything that came out. And she didn't come out crying, but she was wide awake with her eyes, and she came up and kind of did a little cough. And other than that, she just was hanging out, which is similar to our second birth. That is how our first daughter was born. No crying. It was very peaceful. It was very just a loving experience. There was quite a bit of shock because I did think that she was a boy the entire pregnancy. I bought boy clothes. I did all the boy things thinking this was a boy. And she is not. I will say all my dreams, I had dreams about a girl. So that is pretty funny to me. Maybe I wasn't paying attention when she was trying to tell me that. But it was a girl. We were all very surprised because we thought it was a boy. Just based on intuition or incorrect intuition. But she was born and we were all very excited. She had a fairly short cord, which they all have for me in my experience at my births. And when I got out of the tub, probably 10 minutes after the birth, I birthed the placenta standing up. That's a good tip. It's always worked for me. There's been no delay. And it was a really big placenta, big baby, and everything looked good. I always kind of review it the next day. But she was born around 7:20, so it was about a 3-hour birth, which is the fastest active labor we've had of any of the kids. But no tearing or anything, which makes the recovery pretty easy. I've been in bed as much as I can, which isn't as much as I probably should be but we have the other kids and just things going on. So I have a little bit of the FOMO of missing out on any of the activities they're doing, but for now we're doing great. She eats great, she latched great, she sleeps well. Probably the easiest baby and the easiest transition for us, which I'm surprised by. But we're just kind of loving life, and it's been great so far. But that's the story of our third free birth and our fourth home birth of our kids. Thanks for watching. Bye.